Y'all need to read. Are y'all reading?
I read a little bit now.
So y'all ready to be like aggressive?
I don't think you have to be aggressive.
What was that, aggression? You sound like a Pomeranian, boy.
All right, what else do y'all want to talk about? What question do you have, or what kind of conversation topic?
There was one thing we were talking about, I think the other day too, when it comes to, I grew up in church my whole life too, but I also think a lot of this comes from family dynamics, and I grew up with my dad, but I know a lot of friends of mine did not grow up with their dad. But it's like, what consists of manhood? Like, how do you define manhood? Because I don't think, you get some of these church content, but then we were just talking about this too. A lot of churches, it's church mothers, it's women, it's kind of like a lot of that being there. And I know I don't have older men in my life who I like go to for stuff. So it's like, where do you get the model, or what are the characteristics we define manhood by?
Why don't you have older men that you go to?
I feel like, I grew up, even the church I grew up in, there were some older dudes, but a lot of them were not there. It would be a lot of women, if they were married, their husbands don't come to the church, or they just weren't married. Or my pastor, he's there, but it's not like I'm gonna sit down and like talk to him about life. So
why not?
It's just, I don't know. I think part of it is me, and I'm just like, I'm cool.
Okay, Yala.
He tried to fix my life. Tell me more. Look at that. But not. And then I think part of it is I have not seen the fruit of it for most of my life. And then part of it is too, I'm not closed off, but I wasn't in search of it. So maybe I just didn't value it. Like, Lord, send me an older saint.
All right, well, let me
live, Mike.
Because I got some more to dig in on this.
Answer Sheun's question, my perspective, I think manhood is about responsibility. I think if you look at Adam in the garden, the first man, he had a responsibility to take dominion over the earth. He named the animals. He was doing all this work. So he had a responsibility for all that. And then when his wife his woman, Eve came, it was like, this bone of my bone, flesh of my flesh, came in, and they got to work together. So he had a role and a position and responsibility, and I think that's what makes a man. And if you even fast forward through the scriptures, you see where men are given vision, men are given the call to care for their families. Yeah. So I think it's about casting vision, it's about leadership, and I think all of the other things we add to it is just cultural. I think much of it is social construct. I think the Bible told us that men are the leaders of their home, and I think men have a responsibility to care for and protect their families.
All right, so back to you,
Mike. You ain't shared. You ain't shared not a word.
I agree with
You're
everything
doing much more than y'all.
You can't say. You can't say. I agree. I second that. Mike, what is manhood to you?
I think manhood is taking ownership, making decisions, not stepping behind the scenes and trying to push it on somebody else. If there's an issue going on, or you see some craziness going on, a man should not just walk by and be like, oh, somebody else gonna do that. I cannot stand that bystander stuff. A man that says, oh, there's a fire over there, let me go over there and put it out. Let me go over there and see what's going on. We had a recent example about this. Oh, you wanna tell it?
You go ahead, you finish.
We were in DC, near whatever river this was. It was a man.
Anacostia River.
No, because he gonna leave it out. Because I had a bone to pick with him and somebody else that was there. And near the river, it was a man laying on the ground, like clearly passed out or something. Somebody, his friend was trying to hold him up or something. So him and another friend just walking on by. I walk and I see this. I'm like, yo, y'all don't see this? Are we like not looking at this?
They might be crazy, Mike.
They might be crazy. They might be dying, and you can save their life.
They still crazy.
So people are literally walking by and nobody's stopping to say, hey, what's going on? So I go up to him. I'm like, hey, everything all right? And the dude's like, yeah, he's fine. I'm like, no, he's not. I'm fine.
Meanwhile, I'm gonna call the police. What's Mike doing?
They kept on going. They was like, oh, that's just DC.
Right, that's DC.
We become so desensitized to people on the absolutely not okay. Absolutely not okay.
I'm gonna fix this story in 30 seconds. The three of us were out jogging. Mike, myself, and another friend. We're out jogging. There are two gentlemen laid in the woods next to the river. First of all, why y'all laid next to the river, the Anacostia River,
There's a lot of questions.
in DC? Why are you there? Then there are 3 people standing around him. One gentleman's looking over. It's like, I don't know, he's not responsive. So currently there are 5 people. 3 totally coherent, 2 laid next to the river. The 3 of us are just jogging by. We're having a wonderful Saturday afternoon. Mike makes this necessary. God bless him.
Manhood.
I still believe the manhood thing, but we added 3 to the 5.
Y'all
we
weren't at it
did
because they was
not
at the
need-
street.
We did not need to interject ourselves.
But you have to, because look, it was 5 incompetent people who weren't doing anything. To have 5 people who are doing that and you're a man and you're like, hey, no, call the police. And what if I didn't go there and he still was there for what? Because none of them people knew what to do.
We're from DC. We don't
don't
call
trust
the
the police,
We don't
man.
do that.
Yeah.
I'm from DC.
You can be from wherever you want. A man ain't gonna keep dogging.
This is what you do, Lord. Help him, Lord. Bless them, Lord.
Y'all, this
Hope everything works
is
out
a
for
true
him,
story.
Lord.
Let me.
Thank you, Lord.
So they're like, nah, he all right. We got him. Some other guy come.
And we're like, all right.
Oh, we got him. I'm like, no, I'm calling the police. He needs the, and I'm calling. That you gotta take authority and be assertive over the situation. They don't know what they're talking about. I'm like, no, this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna call. That's what a man does. Goes in there, sees chaos, and causes peace to come. Calls the police. Wait there till the police come.
Amen.
You said
walk through.
some good things in there, but I don't know about your case study.
Right, I think that case is a bad example.
The case is an amazing example because if I did, it's the same thing. Have you guys ever heard of the bystander effect? Let's say there's been plenty of stuff on it. Somebody get stabbed or whatever, and people just looking. Nobody stops to do anything. It wasn't 5 people. It was
3.
It was one person, and another gentleman came up and said, "Hey, can you come look at here?" Remember he
There were
said
2
that.
women.
They weren't near the body.
They were with the gentleman that was overlooking the 2 bodies.
Okay,
As we
The
saw.
guy-
get to
the
what
guy-
get to what you were saying.
So that's what a man does. So I have a huge issue when we don't stand and take our place and leave it to somebody else to do it. That's weak and that's not okay. So I told them, I said, what y'all doing? They were just about to go. It should be on you a man of God. You up here.
You a man of
You
God.
supposed to be like, I got the answers. I know the king. Like, are you kidding me? I can fix this.
I think for me too, it's it was something we talked about in marital counseling. So it's if you look at Ephesians 5, and it talks a lot about. I love the verse about wives should submit, but.
I love that.
Forgive me. Sorry, but around
Sorry,
that,
y'all. He not like that.
forgive me. Around it though, it says, of course, submit one to another. But then after that one verse to wives, it goes on and explains the husband's role and how much it is supposed to be to love like Christ loved us. So then it's like we can think about that at a high level, but to really break it down, it showed me, back to what Phill said, responsibility and how much of it is on me as a man or a husband to say, man, if I feel like something's broken, I'm supposed to reach out, like you were saying, and fix it. If I'm supposed to wash, it says wash your wife. So it's like to leave her better than before she came to me. So I think it's like God is putting an onus to say the way that I love you, which is God is always reaching towards us. He doesn't retreat and say, when you're ready, you come fix it. It's like, man, he went to the cross. He gave everything and he continues to sacrifice. And I think that's a part of manhood for me that I see. And it's like, it's not scary, but it is like, oh God, I need your help to kind of get to that level, because it's like, he's saying, if you're going to emulate me, that means you're going to be sacrificing for the rest of your life.
Yeah,
and putting yourself second to put other people, and especially your wife or your family or whoever, to put them in front of you. Yeah. And I think that's an aspect of manhood to talk about a lot too. It's like, man, sacrifice is innate to what God is calling us to do.
Do you think men are naturally sacrificial?
No, I don't think anyone is. I think we are naturally wired to put ourselves first. Culture, society, the world is built around you self-preservation. It's me, mine's, hold on, what? Like I gotta, it's me, mine. And
Me.
And I think we can add to that, but I think that's how we rewire some things to teach men and everybody, but I think there is something explicit about the man to be sacrificial in that way. But yeah.
What about you? Do you think men are naturally sacrificial, or you just think it's just people naturally aren't, period?
So I think naturally if we're out of position, I'll say if we're in position, I think we are naturally self-sacrificial. But in position, I mean, say, I'll use the example of a husband. If I have a wife and kids and there's something coming up against them, I think innately a man's going to get between his wife and his kids, and he's going to make sure that they're protected. I think innately a good man will do that.
Well,
I mean, we can't talk about all men because there's about 1,000 examples.
But you think probably most men would?
Right, most men, I think, innately would be like, if there's no food, everybody's hungry, I'm going to make sure. Most men are going to make sure their kids eat. Right? Most men will make sure their wife eat. At least that's the men that I've come in contact. There's some men, some of my family's like, I'm gonna eat first, and y'all gonna figure it out. I just don't know.
You got some good men. You might have some very good men.
You think men would eat first and let their family go hungry?
Men ain't with their families.
That's a totally different situation. Like I said, if you're in position, that's what I started.
Oh, okay,
right,
okay.
Pretext of my statement.
I mean, not all. We're changing and we're doing better. Okay.
No, so you cover the next topic. If a man's not in position, then absolutely not. He's not going to be doing what he's supposed to be doing as a man. He's not in line.
So in position, you're saying in a marriage?
Not necessarily in a marriage.
Where
if
he should be.
Wherever I am in my life, if I'm in position pursuing God, pursuing godly relationships, it's not for me to protect a wife when I'm single. I don't have a wife to protect, right? So I am selfish. I'm protecting me and what I'm building. In that position, that's not wrong. But if I'm in position with a wife and kids, then yes, I need to be that way.
So as a single man, I don't have to worry about nobody else.
You really going left field.
I'm asking you a question. I still think
your responsibility is to God and what He tells you have responsibility for. Your job, your church, your family, whomever it is that you have responsibility for.
And I do think there's a way, especially shrink it to a church context. How do you, as a man, perceive and interact with sisters in Christ? And I think that's not talked about enough, but it is like this awkward, like, oh, this is my sister. What does it look like for me to, not necessarily like I'm a husband, but there still is some innate kind of sacrifice, protection, and care we can give for our sisters in Christ, and what that actually looks like. I think that's something to discuss as well. But Mike, what do you think a man would do? Are they naturally built to protect? You said most men are not there. So did you grow up with examples of men not being there?
Most people that I know and most guys that I know did not have a man in their life, even up here.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm like, you got all these people that are married. What's that?
So where did you get your examples from if you didn't see it?
So your answer is no. Most men are not self-sacrificial.
I think by nature by nature most men are probably selfish. Absolutely. Because it's about, and I would say women probably are less selfish because it's just something in them that they're like, even if you look at like a mother bear or something, I've seen some YouTube videos recently of these, like a dog, like the whatever kind of dog it was, and she was snapping at the dad dog because he was getting too close. They're so protective over their young, and it's just something in a woman that they're naturally going to give themselves. I mean, they literally give them all their bodies over to produce. Yeah. So it's just something about that. And I think for men, and partially, for men, I think it's kind of just like we have to retrain ourselves to get out of that me mentality, or that it's about me. Even when it comes to submission, the Bible says, wives submit to your husband, blah, blah, blah. We have a huge submission issue, period, point blank, to any authority, to God, to anything. That's why you see probably more women in the church, because women will submit. Yeah. They're like, look, God, I can't get it. It takes sometimes so much struggle for us to really give ourselves over and be like, God, I don't have this in control. I'm gonna give it to you. So I think naturally, probably most men are selfish.
Yeah.
And it just is what it is. We're made new in Christ, and we learn to rewire that, which is super important. But where did I get my examples from? I didn't really have, I think I had to like find stuff from men teachers, like my teachers in high school. I didn't know I needed it.
Yeah.
Number one, so that's part of the issue. You're not realizing you're needing it. You're lashing out, doing whatever, and you're not understanding that what you seek is affirmation from another man. What you seek is to be under submission to another man and be under authority to another man. Because every little boy wants a dad to be like, hey, good job, you're a man. Good job, son. Good job. That's what we want. And I think what we have to, that's why I was kind of digging into your thing about, hey, do you desire it, or do you think you need it, or what did you do, or why haven't you asked? I do think the older generation above us is not naturally gonna reach down. They just don't do it. I don't know why, but they're like, hey, I bring home I'm working, I'm here, that's it. That's what I'm supposed to do.
Yeah.
They did what they could, I guess, at the moment. And I think for us, because we understand more, we're different people, we understand what we need, we have to reach up. If they not reaching down, we gotta reach up. I text my stepdad like, hey, this was going on in my life. I like this girl. Pray for me in this area. Help me with this area.
Yeah.
I'll tell her. I did something. I'll tell him. Like everything, even if I don't like, cause naturally I'm not gonna do it. Naturally I wouldn't want to do it, but I make myself do it because I'm like, I need this. I need a covering, and he is in that position. He naturally probably wouldn't do it, or if he does it, he doesn't know how to. Yeah. So because we are a different type of people, we need to do that. So I think it's super important to find somebody, and if you don't have somebody, pray on it. I prayed on it, and now I got like 3-4 older guys that I can reach out to. And it's not like they reach out to me all the time.
Yeah, and I think we also need to do that to younger guys.
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely, those are two things. We got to be mentored and have to be mentors to somebody else.
Yeah.
Men, we absolutely need that.
Yeah.
And that's been a huge, huge help in my life. Like, down to the fact, I only got one job in my entire life that wasn't through relationship.
Wow.
A single job.
What job was that?
Census Bureau. I applied online. Every single other job, from the first job up to the relationships I have now, was through relationship, through different men. And I'm like, it's extremely valuable in my life.
Yeah.
So.
Awesome.
But I did want to say as well, I think sometimes we vilify men for our natural inclinations that are not necessarily sinful. I think it's our natural inclination to be aggressors, to be conquerors.
Yeah, that's
right?
good. That's good.
And there's something in that drive that's somewhat selfish, the desire to be a conqueror, to go out and get and kill and whatever it is that we have that innate in us. And I think because it's misused and abused by so many men, we then vilify the whole, that whole aspect of us and say that's wrong. And I think a lot of men then go to the other end of the spectrum and may become more passive. Right? But I think that if we redeem, if you will, if we redeem that part of what men are, and we get in position, right? I think it would be easier for women to get in position of submission, right? Because we're submitted to God. We understand that we're out here and conquering, but it's all for my family. Like, we have to make sure that God has worked out a perfect formula, right? I think that many women are so much smarter than men. But in God's wisdom said, you guys are smarter, right? You have the emotional intelligence and all this stuff that men don't necessarily have as well, but I'm going to push you submitted to him. I'm like, to me, I'm like, well, God, I don't know if I would do it that way, but God said, no, I'm going to make him stronger. I'm going to make him taller. I'm going to make his voice more booming. I'm going to put him in control, even though I give you the responsibility to uphold him, to pray for him and do all that. You know what I'm saying? He's the head, but you're supporting. And like, only God can come up with something like that. And I lead her and the family as he leads me. And I think when we get into position, I think we can see how man's innate desire to kind of be aggressive, to be this and that, submitted to God, I think it's a beautiful thing.
You need to read it. You read that book. Wild at Heart talks about that. Y'all need to read. Are y'all reading?
I read a little bit now. I'm trying to read more. I'm trying to read.
So y'all ready to be like aggressive?
I don't think you have to be aggressive.
What was that, aggression? You sound like a Pomeranian, boy.
Boy, you out here, jackal looking. I'm just playing. But no, that's very important to let us be who we are, to get out the aggression, not in a bad way, not anything that's like reckless, but there is something in us that needs to be expressed and needs to come out in a certain way.
Right.
And if it doesn't, like you said, you just revert to this whole passive, like, I'm Sheun.
That was good, Mike. Good one.
Ladies, y'all got anything from the sideline?